Good evening and welcome to the June 26th, 2014 Radnor Environmental Advisory Council meeting. I would like to start off by any comments or changes to the last month's minutes, or do I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Announcements, I just have a few I wanted to talk about, and for the first being the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission has awarded $7.5 million to 11 local projects in southeastern Pennsylvania. And Matt, by the way, I have all these for you digitally. You don't have to write this down if you don't feel like it. This program is called the Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP. Some of the projects, all the projects are in Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, Delaware, and Philadelphia counties. And in Delaware County, there were 3 projects totaling 1.2 million about. And those 3 projects were walkability, bikeability type projects. One was in Wallingford, one was in Swarthmore, and I think the third was in Newtown Square. And I guess that's kind of what the Transportation Alternatives Program was focusing on, and the total in the state, I think, was like $30 million they were awarding. So the program is now closed, I believe, but this is something that this township, I think, could really benefit by. It's actually closed for 2 years. I believe this round of funding was actually a 2-year round. I'm not sure if they're going to reopen it or if they're going to refund it or not, but
because the open space thing has a lot of trail connections as part of the plan right now that don't exist today, and that this would be
exactly what I was thinking when I read this. Yeah. So anyway, on the DVRPC website, they have a full mention of this. And then lastly, I wanted to mention something that I believe one of our members is going to be attending, the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society's tree tender program. Is that Ann? Is Ann attending that for us? I don't think it was Sloan. I can't remember. You think it was Sloan? I don't know where Sloan is, by the way. Sloan, where are you? The PHS Tree Tenders Program. Help plant and care for your trees in your region, your community, or your yard. Become a tree tender. The program offers hands-on tree care training for residents of the 5-county Philadelphia region. It's a 9-hour training, and it covers tree biology, identification, planting, proper care and pruning, and working within your community. And there's 3 dates, 3 subsequent Thursday evenings, I believe, from 6 to 9. And you should go to the Horticultural Society's website. It's penhort.net, and look up the tree tenders site there. And it's open to all. It's not just, there he is. So anyway, that's the end of my announcements. Anybody want to add any announcements?
I have one. There is a landscape rating and certification system called the Sustainable Sites Initiative, which is a relatively new program along the lines of LEED, only instead of being for building, it's for landscapes. And I had mentioned this once a bunch of months ago, and they have just come out with their version 2 rating system, which is the newer, better rating system. So anyone who is a landscape practitioner, policymaker, developer, anybody who might want to look into getting their own landscape certified can get more information at this website, sustainablesites.org. That's SITES.org.
Thanks, Sally. Any other announcements? Sloan, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, late.
That's okay. Okay, well, moving on, I'd like to start the work group reports and discussion section. And to start off, I'd like to introduce Kathy Mulroy. Kathy is, correct me if I'm wrong, the executive director of the Radnor Library.
Yes.
And she's here today to introduce us to the Radnor Library renovation project that is in the planning stages are deep.
Visioning at the very least.
Visioning's okay, okay. So anyway, welcome, and thanks for coming. And
Thank you very much for having me. I want to thank Sally, who contacted me and invited me to come and talk to you all. Again, my name is Kathy Mulroy. I've been the director at Radnor since 2009. One of the things that in the a little bit over 5 years I've been there, one of the things that kind of hurts me every time someone comes in and says, this is a first-class library with first-class services in a third-class building. We are still in the 1980 building that the township the voters of the township passed a bond issue to build. It actually was started in 1979, opened in April 1980. We are still in that same footprint. Now, for those of you who are at least my age, think what libraries did in 1980. We had books, we had typewriters, and we had phonograph records. We had small children's programs, mostly story times, and that was pretty much about it. Now think about what a library does. And one of the things that a library in a community like Radnor is evolving to become is a community center. It's a place for people to meet. It's a third place. They talk about the third place, home and work, and somewhere else to be, where you can be with other people, you can share interests, you can learn, you can grow. And that's what the library has always been, but we're becoming more and more of that in our very fragmented society. People still like to see other people. They like to be with other people. A lot of them did that at Borders. The Borders is gone now. A lot of people did it other places. They're gone now. We're still here. We're still print-centric, which is kind of neat, because it is a shareable, sustainable resource. We look at our circulation, our nearly 300,000 circulation every year, and we say, gee, if everybody bought those, think of what would go in the trash. We share them. Then people bring them back, and somebody else gets to do them. So we are still a physical place for people to be, to share, to get together. Our current building really doesn't do that as well as it could for us. So one of the things that we approached the township for is we said, it's time to really look at that building. It belongs to the township. We are tenants in that building. We are not a department of township government. We have a lease. And so we are responsible for kind of the inside maintenance, and they do the outside maintenance and the big mechanical systems. It's time to look at this building and find out what could be done to make this more appropriate to the demands of this township now. It was obviously a very flexibly designed building to begin with, that we've lasted this long in a building with no additions and no significant changes. So jointly, we hired the architectural firm of Kimmel Beaugret to actually look at the mechanical systems of the building, look at how the building was constructed, to determine what, if anything, could be done to either add to or redo parts of the building to make them more functional. We set them a budget. They're architects. They didn't exactly stay in the budget, of course, but they came close. And what they presented to us, and I'm going to go back, and then the township independently contracted with them to really look at the plumbing, the heating, the air conditioning, all of that mechanical stuff, to see what its condition is, because we still have the original heat pump system that was installed in 1979. When we have to have parts for it, they have to be made in some cases, because that stuff is not being made anymore that way. So they really took a hard look at our heating, air conditioning, and ventilation system. We also looked at ADA compliance. That was not a law in 1980 when we were built. Although the planners of that building really did do a fairly good job of making us physically accessible with a ramp. We have wide enough aisles, etc. That's not a problem. But our bathrooms shall we say, been slightly jerry-rigged to try to make them as close to compliant as possible. We also have a split building. We have a meeting room on the lower level and a library on the second level, and never the twain shall meet. Oh, that was a literary reference, wasn't it? If you're on the main floor, you have to go outside to come into the meeting room. And we do sometimes have people come in and say, I didn't know there was a library upstairs, because they come to our programs, but they don't know that there's a library up there. So it's a kind of, it was an interesting, well thought out design for 1979-80 when it was done. But is it the right design now? The library board had certain priorities that they wanted met. We also I drive by there all the time. I didn't know there was a library there because we sit way back from the street. We're kind of a simple brown box that you don't really see the entrance from the street because it sits even further back off the parking lot. If we didn't have those red umbrellas, I think sometimes nobody would know we're there. Although the 200,000 plus people who come in my doors obviously know we're there. But new residents don't know. People who work in the community, sometimes we have to say, we're next to the post office. Oh, is that the library? Okay, I drive by it all the time. So we have some issues. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the design things that the architects have come up as a recommendation, and I do understand these are not the final floor plans, but I brought copies of these for you if you want to have an idea of what the inside looks like. But it's not exact, because librarians are very particular about where certain things are and what's close to what and all of that. But we're still working on it. We're working on that. We're having some revisions done. But it gives you an idea. This first picture here, Jim, can you? It's on our screen. You're on your screens? Okay. This is a view as if you were standing in the Saturday Club's parking lot with no parking meters and no traffic. So you're across the street. This is West Wayne Avenue. This is the new front of the building. Right now we sit back a little bit more, and we have a huge patio on this side right here. That patio has been enclosed. We have added this space and a new entrance area. But basically the front of the building remains where it is with a new patio in front of it. So the patio would be on West Wayne Avenue, not around looking at the scenic parking lot. This would be the new story area for the children for story time, but it would be designed in such a way that it's not private. The one we have right now is a little private, so we can't let the children go in there without an adult, and then we have to monitor which adult is with them. So we kind of keep it closed off. This is designed that the doors would open and it could become additional seating and other space to use all the time, not just during story time. The new entrance would be here, The new handicap ramp comes off of West Wayne Avenue, making it a much shorter ramp because there's already a slope on the street. And these are the steps that would come off of West Wayne Avenue. Now, in this particular drawing, you'll see the Scope 2 drawing, which you have on the floor plans that I've given you, which puts an addition over our parking lot. Right there. What you would do is you would drive under that addition, because that was one of our criteria, is we could not lose one parking space. Our parking spaces are precious to us. But it also does not add any impermeable surfaces to the property. Basically, the only new impermeable surface is this room that bumps out about 4 feet. We would only come out to the level of the brick building that's part of the post office, the distribution center. We're going to come to that level, which is not that much. Where we're gaining our space is over the patio and over the parking lot. The other place is there's another patio on the side of the building that faces ABC House's yard in the back that we've never been able to use for security reasons. We would cover that, but again, it's already foundationed and concrete and all those other things. One of the issues that we have in our current building is people don't have space to get away from each other. If you've been in our building after school, you'll know that we get a lot of kids from the schools. We also have a lot of adults, many of whom would like to be a lot further away from those children if they could, especially the middle school kids who can be a little rambunctious and loud, and there are giggles, and there's the pushing and the shoving and the yelling. The adults would like to be a little more away from them. So that's why we want to move them away from the adults if we can, as much as possible. Separate disparate groups. So like I said, this is from across the street. This is West Wayne Avenue. This is the same view at night. Now think, if those of you who go up West Wayne Avenue in the evening when we're open, right now we have one small window. You can't see the entrance. We look closed a lot of times. This will give us a much more visible presence on West Wayne Avenue, something that's attractive, something that we hope attract more people, because it's more obvious we're there, we're open, we're providing services. But again, this is the same from basically the Saturday Club's parking lot, looking at the library. And again, this is that addition.
Could I ask, it's a single story in this depiction. Is it possible to build up in the future, or has that been sort of?
That question was one of the questions that we asked the architect to determine. And no, the building we would have to put all new foundations and footers in the building. That was actually priced about 10 years ago, and that was a $12 million plus project. So we're in Lower Merion territory there with money.
Yeah.
The building was not constructed to ever have a second story. And one of the things, because we have a relatively new roof, the roof's less than 5 years old, we are trying very hard to retain as much of the current roofing as possible, since it has a 35-year warranty on it, so we'd like to get the 35 years out of as much of it as we can. This actually is the view from the South Wayne parking lot. Right now, if you've ever looked at our library from the South Wayne parking lot, we look like a minimum security prison. We have no windows, basically, in the back. It's hard to find the entrance to the Windsor room. This gives us a different look completely from an area with a lot of traffic. And again, at night, think when this is lit up, how different that would be than what we have now. And here's that addition that comes out. This actually continues to be parking underneath, so we don't lose any of those valuable spaces. The other thing is the book drop, which everyone loves in our parking lot, would be under there. So when it's raining or snowing and you lean out to put your stuff in the drop, you'll be covered. And my staff, when they go out to empty those 4 or 5 times a day in the rain or the snow, will be able to not try to juggle an umbrella and everything else to try to empty them. But again, this is a concept. This is all existing, but they're adding some additional pretty stuff to make it more attractive. This would be, as this is designed currently, a second entrance off this part of the lot with an elevator, which meets our ADA requirements to get up and down from the first to the lower level. But there would be no services on this floor. This would still just be meeting rooms, but there would be a way to get up in an elevator for someone who needs that.
Could you also access the library from this part, or do you have to walk around to the front of the building?
You can walk around, or if again, some of this depends on how much money we can raise. If the elevator is here, yes, this elevator would go to the upper level, and you'd be able to come out on the main level of the library.
Okay.
No additional stuff. That was the other criteria. And this is the approach from the post office. Post office is basically over here. This is the new entrance right at the corner of the building with the door back in here. There's the patio. This is the new entrance, which would retain the memorial to the World War II dead, because that's why we are the Memorial Library of Radnor Township, because we are basically the municipality's big memorial to the many people who died and served in the Second World War. New windows. This is the current patio is right here. So we now are adding lots of windows. We're replacing our 1979 windows. And then this is that addition. And here's that going down underneath. So we would be basically almost at level in the library, and there would be a ramp up because in order to get whatever the minimum height requirements are, we have to have it like a 2-step up, but it would also be ramped so anyone who has an issue with steps could get up and down. And again, here, as I said, here's the patio, here's the children's area, and this retains all of our parking. On the floor plan, what I've given you is also the basement level. There will be some reorganization of our meeting rooms because it is possible that we will have to move one of the bathrooms to meet ADA requirements. We're still trying to figure out if we can meet them all where they are, or if we have to move one into a larger space to meet the requirements. But if you look at the floor plan again, you can see that thing hanging out on the bottom. That's the addition. If we do that, if we're able to raise enough money to do that, we would gain a little over 6,000 square feet, which when you figure we have about 18,000 square feet now, that would give us almost a third more space. And as you see, what we're looking to do, see how much more open and spread out things are. If we are not able to raise the funds we're looking for, we can actually put off that addition to a phase 2, take over the patios, do the bathrooms, do all the other stuff, and gain about 3,000 square feet. So the funding we have applied, we are in the process of applying in collaboration with the township. It's actually a township application for a Keystone Parks and Recreation and Library grant. That's a matching grant of $500,000. So you end up with 500 of yours and 500 of theirs. There's going to be stiff competition. There are at least 4 other libraries in Delaware County that are going for that money. Yeah, couldn't be a good year when nobody else wants it. So that's a stiff competition. One of which is going for an all new building. So those are always sexy. So people like new buildings. As I mentioned earlier, our HVAC system is the original 1979 heat pump system. I think we all know from experience that heat pumps are great if you have a very, shall I say, level climate. But if you have deep drops and deep ups and high ups, they struggle. And our system, if you've been in the library at really cold times or really warm times, we have always struggled with that system. It was the top of the line in 1979, but I think we've learned for a space that large, it doesn't do well. The recommendation from the engineer who did the study suggested a split natural gas. Our system right now is all electric. Yes. Think of what my electric bills look like. It's to do with, and we have gas right on Wayne Avenue, West Wayne Avenue, to do a split gas and electric system. Upgrade it, basically blow it up and start over. Our ductwork needs to be reworked. Obviously, we're putting gas in. We're going to do some other kind of heating system, but the efficiency levels would be enormously better than what we're doing now. We would replace all the windows in the building. Which would help a lot since they all leak. So that's pretty much, we also, as part of this study, the township paid to make sure we had no hazardous materials in the building. And we have a certification that we don't. We have 1 floor and 1 closet that has tiles in it that is non-friable asbestos. I think everybody has 1 closet somewhere with asbestos embedded tile in it. That would be remediated as part of this. So that's the only thing. They tested all the wallboard, they tested the ceiling tiles, they took samples from everywhere to make sure we don't have anything that would add to our costs or are currently causing any kind of health issues for anyone in the building. So I'm open for questions.
What about lighting?
3 years ago, the Friends of the Library made a very, very generous gift to us, and we were able to replace all but the patio lights with LED lights. They look like fluorescents, those ones that are in the children's area and the ones that are over the adult stacks, the big squares, they're actually LEDs. That dropped our electric bill significantly because we had mercury vapor lights before, which are very hot. So we were happily air conditioning mercury vapor lights for a lot of years. This way, we actually had to tweak the thermostat up slightly for heat in the winter because we lost the heat from the lights. The rest of the lights in the building are all the current size fluorescents. We've gotten rid of all of the old big fluorescents with the really hot
Ballasts.
and inefficient ballasts, yeah.
I mean, this seems like it's a complete gut job, right? I mean, this place is going to be, the carpet's coming up, the plumbing, sounds like you're doing some plumbing work. You're definitely
We'll be
doing new
some
duct
plumbing
work.
yes.
Right. Is
The,
it going to be operational?
The architect, we said we needed to remain operational as much as possible. Their question to us is, how much dirt can you stand? We said, we've been living in a building with a 1979 heat pump. We can put up with a lot. When they start ripping out the ductwork, that's going to be probably a closure. Their estimate is that it's a 4 to 6 months construction period, of which 2 months we would have to be closed, just for safety purposes. But some of this can be done and then punched through and joined to the building. So that's the architect saying that. But, we my board in particular, has no desire to be closed any more than we absolutely have to be. And if we are, then we will make some, like Ludington did, but hopefully not for the 2.5 years they had to, some sort of setup that people can pick materials up and drop materials off, and we can bring things in for people. So, and we would probably move story times to churches and things like that to try to maintain as much service as we can. But there will be certain times in this that, no, we cannot be open. It just wouldn't be safe.
I like the design. I like how it's appropriate for the area. It sort of looks like something from this area, while also looking modern. So it's a nice combination that way. What's the? I just wanted to ask about the budget, and I think you said there was a $500,000 grant that we're applying for, and are we looking for $500,000 from residents and from the township?
The library is looking to raise $1 million.
That's the total, $1 million.
The total budget, depending on which thing, and maybe we can't afford all this stone, is probably going to be about $2.8 million. The library has been putting away its shekels for years. We also have the sale of the old library building on Lancaster Pike. When that occurred, there was an agreement between the township and the library that money be put in trust. We have been using the income from that trust as part of our operating budget. The library board has looked at that and feels that right at this point, with the economy doing well, et cetera, we could take some of that money and put it into the project. We obviously have great hopes that the township will step forward and handle part or all of the HVAC costs, because that is part of the mechanical systems of the building, which they are responsible for. We don't have it written in blood from anybody. So right now, my board is figuring out, and we're hoping to announce officially, even though the paper kind of said we did it already, we're not, a capital campaign starting in the fall. And we're looking to raise $1 million. If we raise $1 million, there's a very good chance we can do it all. If we don't, then we may go to the smaller, as I call it, the baby, not the mama bear, but the baby bear plan, and do that, and then look to raise for future funds for a second edition. But that means that's more disruption. If we have to fix the HVAC system. We're replacing compressors multiple compressors a year because they're just wearing out and they're not efficient. And we're throwing, from our perspective, good money after bad, as is the township on this. So let's do it right. And if we're going to have to close for that, let's close for something fun and not just air conditioning and heat. Let's add something to the building and make it a better building.
Can you explain the process about the architect and the eventual plan that will be used?
The architect who did our feasibility study, part of the RFP stated that that architect does not have any assurances that they will be the architect on the process. We had amazingly 11 architectural firms who came in and did either send in presentations, and then we narrowed it down to 4, and then we narrowed it down to 1. The township, since they own the facility, will do the actual work. They are the owner. They will run the bid process. It will have to follow all township bidding rules. We will have to go through all of the planning and the site work and all that other stuff that anybody else does, but it's a township building, so it's a little different relationship in those. We basically would be raising the money and finalizing the plans from the library's perspective, that whatever's finalized is what will meet the library's needs. And then we'll help pay for it. But it's their project once we raise the money and go to final plans. And they have assured me that they would probably be hiring a project manager to actually make sure the thing actually gets done the way it's supposed to be done.
So if I had the numbers right, it was maybe a $2.8 million project, hoping to raise about $1 million through the capital campaign.
$500,000 from the state.
$500,000 from the grant. That's a state grant, right?
Right.
Leaving us with about 1.3
Right.
from
Of which more than half of that would come from the library's trust. And
Okay.
again, we're hoping that the township will kick in some because of the HVAC
Okay, I got you.
responsibility.
So as far as you know, the grant application hasn't happened yet, right? Or no, has it?
We haven't received the approval to actually apply. You had to do a letter of intent. They review it to make sure that your project meets their requirements. That we have received. The actual application for the grant is due in October.
Okay.
I am working with Melissa Kahn from the township because, again, the township is the applicant because they own the building.
Sure.
And the money goes to them. It doesn't come to us. Melissa, Steve Orsini, myself, and members of my board are working on that. We just got our PHMC. We had applied before for money 2 years ago just for the HVAC and didn't get it. So we already have our PHMC certifications that we're not a historic building. If there ever was not a historic building, it's ours, except for the wall, the memorial wall, that's now over 50 years old. So we've started that process. Steve is working with the architect to get the floor plan that better shows the ADA issues. We are in the process of going out to our legislators to make sure that we have letters of support from all of them. And then we have to do, obviously, the actual application. Like I said, we applied 2 years ago. I was told, although I think they always, it's kind of like being the bridesmaid, you were the next one who didn't get funded.
Yeah.
So, but that's what they told us. But they said it was not a problem with the application.
So
The application was complete and full. It's just they ran out of money. That's what they told us.
So as far as you know, this grant is the only application for outside funding that is going to happen. Has anything else been discussed?
Well, we're going to be going, obviously, to foundations and, for example, the McLean contributorship. A lot of places don't give capital money. They're very close with capital money. In part, I don't know if you are aware, there was a big study done by the Pew Group that found that a lot of nonprofits, because when people were giving them capital money, built buildings and then couldn't support them. So they don't really like to do buildings. Most of them say right on there, we don't do capital. We're obviously going to be looking at that. We're going to be looking at corporate giving. Again, they tend not to like to do capital. But we have, we're developing a fundraising plan right now about all the places that we're going. But as I keep saying at every meeting I'm at, if there's somebody out there who has $1 million and would like a big chunk of the library named after them, we'd be glad to take their money because it makes our lives a lot easier, and we know we can go forward with the plan. But without that, we can't do that.
Still a little bit confused about the money. So the matching grant would be $500,000.
And the
but
township is putting up the match.
Okay, so then is the other 1.3 that Josh was asking about, would hopefully some more of that 1.3 come from the township?
Well, actually, Josh had not put in the match on the $500,000, I don't think, in his money. So there's,
I guess that was part of the 1.3.
right, the match was part of the 1.3. The township at this point is matching the 1.3, the 500. So that's $1 million there. We're
there's
raising $1 million.
800,000.
So now you can figure out how much the library's putting in.
800,000 library, yep.
About 800,000. Unless, of course, we raise more money and then we can leave it in the trust and use it for fun stuff like books and programs and stuff.
Will this get you a LEED certification?
The comment from the engineer is that since it is a building that is of its vintage, it will not be eligible for LEED. Because what would be required would cost a lot more money to do. When Sally and I spoke about this, I said, we're obviously focused on the library side of it, making sure that the building meets the needs of library services and serves the public as a library. While we think that's great, we're trying very hard to make sure that we are not doing anything egregious. But LEED certification is not a huge priority for the library. If it is for the township, then those additional expenses would have to be thrown in, I think. Then that, I guess, would be your role.
Just to elaborate a little bit on that point, there's, I actually went back and forth a little bit with U.S. Green Building Council to find out if it even might be eligible, even theoretically. And theoretically, there's 3 different types of certification that could possibly apply. There's the building design and construction itself, there's the interior design and construction, and then there's LEED for commercial interiors. So one may be more feasible, whereas another might not. Perhaps that's something to consider down the road as things evolve.
And understand that we're a publicly, we have people in that building, a lot of people, small children. We're very, very sensitive to the materials in that building, having no toxicity, being not off-gassing, not doing any of that. So that may well be dealing with some of the interior furnishings and making sure that we're doing that and, making sure that the finishes meet that requirement. But, again, we only have so many dollars to stretch, and all of those things are important, granted.
Yeah, one of the issues with LEED is that there are a lot of costs of the documentation.
Yeah.
And I've worked with a number of clients that the building, I think one was even gold LEED, but they didn't, they
apply.
met all the requirements for gold LEED, but they didn't pursue the plaque on the wall because it was tens and tens of thousands of dollars, because there's all this documentation during construction, and then it has to go on, I believe, for a year after, at least a year after construction, that all these systems are meeting,
They have
the
to be
parameters that
tested
got you
and-
there.
oh, gosh, yes.
The accreditation. So, I think this is kind of one of those situations, you spend tens of thousands of dollars for the plaque and the notoriety of it, or do you put
Right.
that into your programs and a better system for, heating the building, cooling the building?
Right.
Is there, short of, full certification, is there a menu or a set of recommendations for good, sustainable, and green
Okay.
materials used, where you're putting in new materials, types of appliances that are more efficient than others, things that can be done
Yes.
and may not get the plaque on the wall, but are still good steps, and steps that may or may not even cost a lot more. And I don't know whether that's part of the design process.
Well, we would, as I said, because You know, we're not an office building where people are only there 5 days a week from 9 to 5. We're a building that people are in there 9 to 9, 5 days a week, and Saturdays and Sundays, and we have kids crawling around on the floor, and we have, you know, senior citizens with walkers, and we have, you know, we have to be very careful about the kinds of materials. And obviously, the people who do those kinds of furnishings understand that that's what libraries do. We buy the sturdiest furniture known to mankind. It will last probably all of our lifetimes. But it is all wood. We don't buy pressboard. We don't buy, you know, things like that. We have to be careful because we have got so many children in the building. They do chew on things, so we're very careful about that. And as I said, the HVAC system now is not operating at all, pretty much. So the improvements just in efficiency and the amount of energy we're going to use after this, even adding additional square footage, is going to be enormous. I don't think you want to know what my electric bill is every month.
Well, we know.
Add a comma.
Can I just expand upon what Sloan was asking? I think
Yes.
I'm surprised at how much of the original building you're keeping.
Mm-hmm.
You're keeping everything, basically.
Basically, yeah.
So while these renderings make it look like this is a brand-new building that I don't recognize, upon closer inspection, I see that really, I guess they're talking about a facade treatment here with new
Yes.
windows, you know, the fakes, the stone partial foundation look, and I guess that's some kind of a, you know,
Stucco. I think it's stucco.
is that what that is, stucco?
Yeah.
Okay, so, but there's
We
no
want to
talk.
get rid of that wood that bugs eat.
There's no talk about changing insulation inside the walls. The walls aren't coming apart, right?
No.
The walls are staying where,
Except in those front corners and the back corner.
Right.
And then obviously where we're going out over the parking lot, that wall would come out. And that would be we have to, because if you're putting a building above ground, you're going to have to really insulate that, or it's going to cost me even more in electricity and heat to keep it up. But no, we're not opening up and putting all new insulation in the building.
so the carpeting will be new and the furnishings will be new. The facade would be new, including the windows.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have the new front entry. But the roof stays, the walls stay. I guess the ducts have to be replaced, but
Yes.
we're not talking about changing the plumbing or the electrical systems?
Well, some of the plumbing, if we have to move the restrooms, yes,
Okay.
that'll be changed.
So really, this is an HVAC and facade project.
And additions,
And
additions, adding the patio.
And if you get the
adding
funding,
Right.
a big addition over the driveway.
And as I said, even in the small addition, the patio gets enclosed and the other patio gets
Yeah,
enclosed.
Okay.
The 3,000 square feet.
So HVAC, obviously there are different types, and some are more efficient than others. I wonder if there's some thinking, or at least some options that could be put on the table that include some quite green approaches. I don't know if it's possible to do, for example, a geothermal or
That has been explored.
Has that been explored? That's great. I mean, I know those can be.
We're on that same slate under us as the middle school is. So going through that is very difficult, and it has to go through the parking lot, which means we would lose the parking lot for some period of time, and therefore it's a huge issue. It was looked at, that was priced by a former consultant. It was a 35 to 40-year payback.
40-year.
35 to 40-year payback. Again, I don't have the upfront money to wait for a 40-year payback, quite frankly. If the township wants to do that and pay for it, that's fine. But we're not in a position. I'd have to raise a lot more money. And $1 million's probably enough to try to raise.
You've got full plate. I mean, I
Yes.
do know that, I think this, the school district did put some geothermal
Yes, they did.
in. So it's
Down
not-
where the lake was. I think they did it down where the field is somewhere, which is not the same slate and that granite or whatever it is that's We also have a stream in our parking lot.
Good for geothermal.
Back to the insulation question, I forget if I asked you before, has there been an energy audit done? Or
No. Oh, actually, I shouldn't say that. The township came in and they got all of our energy records, and I believe they were doing an energy audit on all of the buildings. We have never seen the results.
Just to throw out a suggestion,
For other reasons.
air sealing and insulation can be a pretty low-hanging fruit kind of thing to take on that may not really cause a whole lot of disruption other than, small holes that need to be patched and painted later on, depending on how it's done. And it might be, something that you could do at this time that could be very helpful, I would think.
I think the ceiling issue is definitely one we're going to look at, because I believe we're going to be changing the in some cases, 35-year-old ceiling tiles in the building. And so there is insulation in the roof. Unfortunately, there is no space between the actual roof decking and the ceiling. It's almost dead on. There's only about this much space in that huge peak ceiling. One of the things that we want is we want fans. We want to be able to move the air around and push the heat down and pull the heat up. And we can do that with our big peaked ceilings and not decapitate somebody. So those are the kinds of things we're looking at. We would like to go to more LED lighting because we've seen the payback. That stuff pays itself. It basically pays for itself.
Have you had good experience with the quality of the light?
We have hanging fluorescent lights in the children's area that we have not had to turn on since we put the LED lights in. And people would we had somebody come in and say, "You got new carpet?" We said, "No, you can see it for the first time because it was really blue again and it looked fresh."
Okay.
But before it was kind of, and it throws wonderful clear light that doesn't shadow the same way. So people are able to see the materials better, but it doesn't glare off the book covers. I don't know, it's magic. I don't know how they do that.
No, we did that in our retail store, and it's about a 4-year payback on the electricity.
Right, yeah.
And we used fewer bulbs because the light is better.
Oh, I don't have to buy, every week we were buying ballasts and bulbs and having to pay someone to come in to put them in because I have a few skills, but changing ballasts is not one of them. And so our maintenance cost savings on that has been enormous. But like I said, thank God the Friends were able to front the money, so we were able to do that. And it has been, we also had, one of the other reactions we had was, "Oh, you're open at night," because the old mercury vapor lights kind of glowed kind of yellowy pink, and people thought we were closed. Now we're lit up like, a Christmas tree at night. And it's good, but we're going to be even more so when this happens. But yes, we're going to look at all, because I have to pay the electric bill. So trust me, we will make sure that we are getting the most efficient lighting we can get.
And you're paying the natural gas bill in the future.
Right, then I will be paying the natural gas bill
So
as well.
I guess, Kathy, I'm going to make a suggestion. I'm not necessarily cutting off discussion or anything like that, but I wanted to, instead of peppering you with our little ideas that just sort of come to our heads here and there, I think we would like to, think about this for a little bit and think if there's any way that we can help during this very early design phase, right? The mechanicals haven't been selected yet, right?
No.
Yeah, that haven't even been designed yet. So I'm thinking that this is a great time for this presentation, and I think we do have some ideas that aren't necessarily pie in the sky.
Right.
Like, a windmill sticking out of the roof, right? I think
I'm
there's,
not sure our neighbors would like that.
I think there's real things that you can do that wouldn't bite into the total budget much, and could find a way to pay for themselves rather quickly. There's programs that we are aware of that can help offset these costs, whether it's through PICO or other low interest rate loan type programs to get some of these things installed. So I think what we should do, if you guys agree, is keep this discussion rolling over the next couple of months and put together a list of ideas that we want the township to look at before the design process gets too far down the road.
I think that is a wonderful idea. Because like I said, my expertise is getting people to stuff and stuff to people, not design necessarily in the area that you've got the expertise. And I think that it makes a lot of sense for you all to say what you know about and obviously care about, or you wouldn't be on this committee, and make that presentation to the township as to when they actually go to bid, when they actually get the drawings done, to start shoveling dirt. That those kinds of issues have definitely been kept in focus through the entire thing.
This will come before planning too, because we just
Oh, yeah.
we just had 2 of the grade schools seek the ability to add space and take away
Yes.
trailers and things like that. It's sort of a mini report.
Right, yes.
Is there any part of your project deal with stormwater?
Interestingly enough, when the building was built, we managed all of our own stormwater in a cistern under the building. All of the drains went down, except the one in the parking lot, which also drains, the same pipe drains most of North Wayne because we can hear it going by. And we have a cistern that has a sump pump on it and all that. If it gets too full, then it sends it out to be groundwater. But in a normal rain, and I don't know I've never seen the actual specs on it, we keep it all in the building, and then it's released later when there's no other water to add to flood. So we don't add to flooding. Over time, some of that has been disconnected. Before my time, so I don't know when some of the downspouts were diverted from that system. One of my hopes is in this process, because we're changing one of the facades where that occurred, that's reconnected and reused. Because I think that was, obviously whoever designed this building was very conscious of the problems of flooding in South Wayne, and so South Wayne Avenue area. And so they basically hold it, and then, like I said, when it gets to a certain height, it releases, but then, obviously, so it doesn't flood up into the building, but then it's released slowly into the downstream long going. And I think would be great to reconstitute that entire system and make sure everything's going where it's supposed to go.
Do you know if that system's inside the building or
Oh,
outside?
it's under my basement.
Oh, wow.
We found out that, we found out about it actually when, I guess it was the first summer I was here. We had torrential rainstorms, and the sump pump wasn't working. So we found out about it. So then we had the sump pump fixed, because that was not one of the list of things I was told, by the way, get the sump pump fixed or checked every year. So we keep it operating. But it is, that was the original design of the building, which really was great forethought to do that. And again, we're trying very hard to keep the new footprint in somewhere that's in the old footprint, that we're not adding a lot of additional impermeables.
This sounds like geothermal for dummies, maybe, but do you know the capacity of the cistern, and could it be a heat sink or whatever?
I have no clue. We hit that scientific question that I have no clue about.
It could be really big, you know.
I have no idea how many gallons it holds. I just know that it's a big part of my basement.
Do you have flooding problems? Does the building itself?
No, once we got the sump pump fixed, it works fine.
Oh, that's great.
When we get too much, and as long as the gutters are cleared. Obviously with everybody, if we get gutters to back up, then it comes over the side of the building and floods in the building. But it's minor. We've only dealt with one major one when the sump pump wasn't working.
Well, if you do end up redoing some plumbing, you might be able to flush the toilets with that rainwater. So one more wish list item to stick on there.
I don't know, I want to keep it. Remember, I'm a building full of paper, so my humidity levels are extremely important to me, because paper is organic and it absorbs water and it starts doing curving. So we're supposed to maintain our humidity levels at about 60% all the time, just to preserve the paper. And the computers don't like it a whole lot higher than that either. So the vision of holding water, it's just, I don't want to hold it that long. I want it to leave when it can leave and go its merry way wherever it has to go.
Well, I thank you very much for a great presentation, and we hope to hear more about the project as it as the funding starts coming into focus, and
Yeah.
it's really neat.
Yeah, well, it's time. And I don't know if, I hope all of you got our newsletter, and our little header said overdue. We think this project is overdue.
Right.
Well, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, Skip, how are you doing on time-wise?
5 minutes.
All right. Actually, I'm not doing very good on time-wise either, but maybe what we'll do is we'll move to liaison reports, and what I'll do is give a quick liaison update from Ann, who couldn't make it tonight. She's on the Greenways and Open Space Committee, obviously, and she just wanted to let us know that the draft report that she's been keeping us updated with has been presented to the Board of Commissioners on Monday, this past Monday, and that draft report is up on the Radnor website for us to review.
We're having a meeting to look at that. Not a public meeting, but a meeting of the committee.
Yeah,
I forget the date,
Yeah.
but it's in my email.
Right. Okay, so Skip, do you have an update for us on the
Well,
planning?
you had a little tiny slice of it because we had 2 meetings in June, and one of them was local smaller things like I think a final meeting on the Coos Corner replacement project, but we also had both Ethan and Wayne come in requesting the ability to build small additions and in some cases remove existing trailer type facilities, so that once you're in class or in the school building, you're in the building, period, whereas now sometimes you have to go outside, et cetera. We had one special meeting on Ardrossan, and we're having another special only Ardrossan meeting on July 9th, probably right now. And it will be a long process, and the neighbors have comments, and we have comments, and stay tuned. It will probably be another couple months, the way I think it will turn out, before we are done with it. The next meeting also has the Cabrini coming back in. They want to add to, I think it's the Dixon building, and change some of the parking lots and things like that.
Whatever happened to their parking garage?
That's still in the plan, and it's still 2 separate buildings instead of one 700 parking space building. But they're really working on this Dixon thing right now more than anything else.
Thank you.
That's sort of it.
All right, thanks, Skip. We can round out liaison reports very easily, because I don't think there are any other liaisons here. And we'll jump right back into the work group reports with the Green Team. Sloan, I'll let you to give the update on that. The next meeting is of the Green Team is July 2nd at 8:30 a.m. That is. And I know it's a tough time, but if any of the EAC can make it, we should all go, I think, to this one particular meeting, because it's kind of like the kickoff meeting to the 2014-15 season.
Yeah, I just would echo that. I think it'd be great to have as many folks there as possible. I understand it may be difficult for folks if they work in the city, but I think it will help show the interest level. We have provided all the liaisons for each of the different working groups, which is great, and I think it's really going to get momentum, particularly around the priority items. So I think we've got a good map, and we'll report back after the actual meeting.
Just give a quick blurb about our meeting with the.
Oh yeah, we had a nice meeting with the Conservancy, and showed them the greenhouse gas action plan. Talked about the Green Team and the priorities. I think there's a lot of shared interest, and particularly around the green power purchasing. It might even be something that there could be a sustainability series discussion that we could have to sort of talk about not only what the township can do, but also what residents can do. So I think that's one idea that we might pursue with them. But basically, I think they feel that there's a lot of, it fits well with their priorities and with ours. So I think we'll try to keep them posted and have a good continuing dialogue on what we're doing. So.
And we have, thanks, Skip. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Skip.
I have to do another meeting.
Oh, you do?
Upper Marion.
We have a,
Oh, really?
Bid renewal.
Oh, fun.
Sloan, we have a new liaison.
Oh, we do.
A new liaison to the EAC guys, which is kind of exciting, from the Conservancy.
That's right.
Yeah, so
we have Ginny Kreitler has offered to be our liaison with the Conservancy and help us understand what their priorities are, and we certainly will keep her posted on our various working groups and
Yeah.
issues. So she was there, and it seems like she'll be a great resource for us.
Yeah, I was happy about that. It's overdue, in my
It
opinion.
is.
Yeah, I mean, we have such similar,
Right.
what we're shooting for here, and yeah.
Right.
So anyway, all right.
And we have in the past worked together with them on various projects, including the electric car program. So, that's something that I think we can continue in the future.
Okay, so while you have your mic on, Sloan, do you have any update on the WaterSense program? No, not this month. That's okay. We'll get you next month. I think we've heard about the open space from Ann and from Skip, and Birdtown. That would be Ann. Do we have anything? You have anything on Birdtown?
I do not on that, but I know Ann met with a couple folks from the township about the Wren grant and walked around the township, and I've just been sort of on some of the emails, and it sounds like they found a location, but I'm not really clear where that is. And there also seemed to be some discussion that there wasn't a place for a big rain garden, so now they're thinking, okay, can we do a small rain garden and a little meadow area? And there was a third thing, which I can't remember now. Maybe just some more native planting somewhere or something like that.
Does this mean they're changing from the original grant application in the
Right,
parking lot
and
here?
Ann's going to be reaching out to Wren and making sure that's all okay, and I can't imagine it wouldn't be. I mean, if you don't have the place to put what you hope to put there, what are you going to do? Right? And I don't think Wren is going to, take the money away and try and redistribute it or anything. I just don't think that's what they're about.
Well, under old business, I wanted to bring something up. It's regarding the green power purchasing. Steve Elliott sent around an email a few days ago with a draft RFP for the green power purchasing. This is something that it's a priority for us, for the EAC, where we've asked the green team in Radnor Township basically to make a priority for them this year. So I really need the EAC members to go over this thing, hopefully in the next couple days before next week, and we can get back to Steve with our comments on, do we think this is going to work? Do you have any improvements that we can add to this that will help make this a more clear process for the people who intend to bid on this? I've skimmed over it, and I'm not prepared yet to make any comments on it, but I really think I'm happy we have this in our hands finally, and I want to keep this momentum moving. So I think we should set a goal to get our comments to Steve and then to the township after that by the end of next week. If we could do that, I think that would be, I want to do this before the next meeting is what I'm driving at here.
Do we know whether this is modeled on any other RFPs, or is this, kind of good questions from folks, involved in the process? I don't know whether there's a template or, some RFP that we should be comparing this to. It certainly seems, from my read, like a good set of questions. I just don't know whether there are others that, other townships or anybody else who've gone through this and had other questions in addition to this.
I don't know the answer to that, whether
Maybe we
it's-
can ask Steve.
Yeah, we should ask Steve.
I mean, my only initial reaction was, instead of saying, we're seeking a minimum of 50%, we might say, we'd like to know what the full range of options, up to 100% green power. But I'll send any other comments.
Okay.
Away, but
Sally?
I had asked him in comments that I wrote on an earlier draft about which properties are we actually talking about, where it says providing energy to the township and all of its properties currently serviced by PECO, because this is the question that's been also a factor in the action items that I'm working on about recommissioning township buildings and lighting for township buildings, because I haven't been sure exactly which buildings are supposed to be in the scope. And so, for example, and I meant to bring this up when Kathy Mulroy was still here, she had told me that she would be very interested in pooling electricity purchases with the township, and had hoped that things were going to move in that direction a few months ago when some things were in the works, and it didn't end up happening. But that's the kind of thing that would be great to know. Is the library a potential, is the library one of these accounts? I guess not. Could it be? Do we need to know that at this point? It's sort of a long-range question.
It sounds like, she's a pretty big electricity user,
Yeah.
and I don't know whether this 896,000 kilowatt hour figure, Josh, you may remember.
I don't
Is that-
remember off the top of my head, but this 900,000 kilowatt hours may or may not include the library, the Wayne Arts Center, the senior center. So
Right.
yeah, it's important that we have
it
a
could-
list of accounts
Yeah,
that
it could
should
certainly-
probably be an appendix to this.
That's
right?
a very good point,
Yeah.
and it may well raise the total size of the project, which is a very good thing. I think that the bigger the number of kilowatt hours, the more worthwhile it's going to be as a project for some of the folks receiving the proposal. So I think it's a great point. If we can boost that number with the library and others, I think it only increases our chances of getting some good responses back.
Maybe the thing to do is add something to the RFP along the lines of, can we add new accounts to this, deal that we're striking with you in the future if the opportunity arises, that kind of thing.
Certainly that, but also just, the bigger the number we're coming to the table with, I think the more excited, the power companies are going to be. So it's a great point if we can, bring them all in and get, maybe we get over that 1 million kilowatt.
Sorry, is there any other old business or new business?
Luke, I think, was going to, and maybe we can talk to him next time, but he was going to talk with the Park and Recs folks about the stream cleanup and the fishing wire issue. So I have not heard any further news on that, but I think it's still an open item of discussion.
So next month, we'll
For
hear
next
from him.
month, yeah.
Okay.
Also, I have something to mention that would also pertain to Luke and Parks. Getting back to that sustainable sites rating system that just came out with a new version, I personally think it would be great if we suggest that at least one person on the Parks board make it a point of familiarizing himself with that system and just get the broad outlines, and then maybe consider doing a pilot project to actually try and get a property certified under that system, or at least consider it. I think it would be a really great idea if they knew that that was on the map.
Do you think it's possible that a citizen could help the township do that? Or do you think it should be somebody employed by the township should get the certification or accreditation or whatever?
Well, it would be a piece of property that would be getting certified. So it could be a park, for example. That's why I'm thinking of parks. It's certainly, the whole rating system is by no means limited to parks. It can be residences, it can be commercial buildings, it can be anything. But since we have a Parks and Recreation Department liaison here, and since we have the whole Sustainable Parks Initiative, that was the other link here. It seems like, at least an approach that might fall under that whole Sustainable Parks rubric.
It's a great idea.
I'm a little familiar with the old Sustainable Sites version, so I'm interested to see what's in the new one, and be happy to talk to Luke about it and see if there's some opportunity there.
Great.
All right.
Okay, any other old or new business? There being no public comment, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks, guys.